this bag is kind of large. You know, normally you already carry your EDC. You carry, you know, the things that you have on you on a regular basis. You know, whether it's a knife, your small flashlight. If you don't carry a flashlight already and you get one and you start carrying it, you will not do without it. These are just incredible. And, you know, of course, your billfold, your cell phone, things like that. I do have a short story. I was telling some of the guys back there earlier about having a knife. One of the things about having a knife is that you never know what kind of situation. This is your most important tool. And one of the things that really came home to me was a good friend of mine who is in law enforcement. When he was very young, he and his cousins were playing. He was a lot younger than his older cousins, and they tied him up in a tree and left him. And just fun, kind of rough fun, but fun nonetheless. And they left him, and he started slipping, and the rope got around his neck. And he said if he hadn't had a pocket knife, he would have died that day. Every morning when I go to get my EDC, I think about that story. So knives, your ultimate, that is, if I had one tool, that would be the knife. So those things are things that, you know, we just keep on us, to things we need to use or have or whatever. But sometimes there are things that come in handy, and I think that's one of the things we're going to look at today mainly is just in your everyday. This isn't, you know, a zombie apocalypse or anything like that. This is just things that are extra that you could use. Doesn't take a lot of room to put in your car. Of course, unless you're like me and you have your car stolen, you know, which thank goodness we got that back. But you know, having, you know, but the thing is you didn't know about that? No. Okay, I'll tell you about that later. We won't go into that now. I had my truck stolen, but and it got returned. So anyway, having your stuff in one location, things you use a lot, it really makes life a lot simpler. And you know, I was just telling my buddy Day and I came down with me, and before we leave, going anywhere, like especially on a trip, is take that bag and just put it in the truck and bring it down with you. And there's just a few extra things in there, and that can really make life a lot easier. So what we decided to do, we kind of thought about putting together a bag out of the stuff here, but instead of that, we decided to take our own personal bags. Now my bags are always changing around, but taking our own personal bags and just kind of going through why we do what we do.
Bags as they are right now, because they change day to day.
And honestly, if I'd have known that, I might have a different setup in here. So you know, you're getting the raw thing. So you know, this is literally, this is what I brought down. You know, you're going across town. The plane crash that happened right out here on 285. You know, you never know when things are going to be shut down. You may be sitting somewhere for 10 hours. You may need to have some items. So Marshall, you want to get started? Tell you what kind of bag you got and everything. Maybe we.
Yeah, so this is a bag that I actually keep in my backpack. So you know, I have my bag that I keep my laptop in, and I keep my stuff for work. So I don't really want to carry around two backpacks all the place, so I keep mine relatively compact. You know, this is something that's small, has some useful tools in it that I use quite a bit, and you can just throw this in your backpack, or you're going in somewhere, you can take this in with you. You know, just a kind of a compact little bag that's useful. And this is a Maxpedition bag. I guess we're both sporting Maxpedition today. I'm being a terrible salesman right now because I'm honestly not sure which bag this is, but it's one of the, what is it?
FR1.
FR1. There you go. We'll go
I've
with
even
that.
got one. I should know.
But it's a nice little bag. It's got some good organization in it. I'm a big fan of organization because if this was just a bag that was, well, just a bag, it didn't have any pockets or the stretchy parts that it has in here, everything just shoved in there is kind of hard to find. You know, maybe you're in a situation where you need to get something quickly. I like the organization, and this is really good about that. Where you got all the little pockets and the stretchy parts and all kinds of zipper pockets and stuff that you can organize everything. And then you got the organization on the outside as well. I got a compass and a knife clipped to it. But I like bags like this. You know, they have their EDC organizer bags that are really, really useful, and this is basically just a souped up version of that. Adds on a strap and all that kind of stuff.
Today has a purse.
There you go. Yeah. Says the guy with the purse.
This is a satchel. This is a satchel. This is one of the Maxpedition Jumbos. I do carry one of the little bit smaller ones, the Fat Boy, a lot of times. And this would really probably be a little bit big for necessarily EDC. I'd probably go with just a little bit smaller, but that's got me going too. Of course, you guys know that watch my channel. If I get a bag, I'm always into something new. But this is a great little bag, very versatile. It does have a single shoulder strap, but the thing is, you can put it on here. If you carry more stuff, you can shove it and carry it over your shoulder this way, which typically if I'm having something here, it wants to do that. Y'all probably don't have that problem, but you know, it always wants to tend to go over my shoulder. This also has a strap that goes around. But that's really for if you're really having to get into some kind of situation where you're on foot. But just having, again, this is probably a little larger than what I would carry every day, but it still is going to have a lot of the contents. And Maxpedition, you know, it's just good stuff. But you can use different bags. I mean, you don't get stuck on that. There's a lot of different good choices out there. Find out what's suitable for you. That's first order of business.
Well, you talked about knives. So cutting tools, like you said, are really important. If you watch anybody's survival videos, everybody always says that your knife is your most important tool because it's the tool that makes other tools. You can do a lot of other stuff with the knife. You can start fires and make shelters and all that kind of stuff. Even when you're not in a survival situation, knives are very useful. You know, like Don was talking about rescue situations, even opening boxes and packaging and stuff like that. Knives, if you have one on you, you find yourself using it 20 times a day. The same with flashlight. You know, everybody says, why do you carry a flashlight? I'm like, well, it always gets dark. So, I mean, it's always eventually going to be dark. You're going to probably need a flashlight at some point. And I find a real flashlight a lot more useful than carrying around a cell phone or a keychain light or something like that. But if you're concerned about size and weight, then absolutely. You know,
what kind of knife you got?
What kind of knife? I got the Boker Gnome. I love this little guy. You know, I have all kinds of 4-inch and 6-inch fixed blades, you know, big choppers and stuff like that. I take them with me and I never use them. So I always end up using this little guy right here to do pretty much everything. It's a nice little versatile knife. But you know, it's got a tiny little handle and you wouldn't think it could do a whole lot, but it ends up being really comfortable in the hand. Yeah, they did a good job with that little guy.
It is.
I find myself using that when I'm doing stuff more than anything else, other than my pocket knife. But yeah, I carry a folder like Don does. I carry a zero tolerance folder, and then I carry an O-Light flashlight. So these are always in my pocket, and this is just additional tools that help me out throughout the day.
And I have one of this is actually one of the EDC knives, but they don't make this one anymore. I think they do make this in another one, DPX, and I believe you have, yeah, but this is actually by EDC, I think they would make them. But this is a neat little knife. Just having a fixed blade knife, and it doesn't matter about the specific brand. It matters about having a good quality fixed blade knife. There are a lot of things you can do with it you can't necessarily do with a folding knife. Now, if you have a really high quality folding knife, now this is just a Benchmade Barrage, and it's pretty good. But if I really need to crank down on something or have some leverage, fixed blade's a lot better. And having a good way to, you know, a sheath of some sort to keep it protected. Really quick.
You talk about signaling. You got a whistle sitting hanging on the outside there.
Yeah, I got me a little whistle in case, you know, in case I get scared. You never know. You know, I might get scared about something. I don't know.
Whistles are really useful, especially if you're going on a hike or something like that with your kids or your family. Not even for emergency situations, just, you know, you're hiking in different areas and you want to let the other person know where you are. Or maybe you found something interesting. You work out a code where a couple tweets means this, 3 tweets means this. And they're just useful little tools to have just for signaling, just to let people know where you are.
Seriously, I know I was giving you a hard time, but yeah, it is important to have some kind of signaling device. And you know, if you fall down and break your leg, you can be able to use that.
Yeah, so I just have one, the AMK whistles, and they work really well. The Fox 40 Micro. I guess it's not AMK, it's Fox 40. But yeah, whistles are really good. Mirrors are another good tool to have, just for you know, checking out your makeup in your reflection. And
you trying to tell us something?
What? No, signaling is what I meant. Signaling. If you've ever seen videos, if you watch any of the Survivor Man or Man vs. Wild or anything like that, pretty much all of them have done demos on signal mirrors. And on a sunny day, if a plane's flying overhead, you know, even a couple miles up, it's very easy to see a signal mirror. If you know how to properly use it, you can signal something miles away. So that's another really useful tool to have. And AMK, I have another AMK, just one of their little rescue mirrors that works pretty well. It has a little signaling, little sight thing on the inside.
Oh no.
I think we need to talk about fire next. I think fire is one of the most important tools that you can have, and may even supersede a knife. Well, as far as what you need to have, but I think a fire kit, which I do, and of course you can have different things, but you know, one of the old sayings is, you know, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. And when you're out trying to create a fire, especially in wet or damp conditions or windy conditions, it's good to have some extra ways to do it. And Marshall's got a whole list of stuff here for fire.
I'm still pulling out all my fire stuff. I like starting fires.
And we'll have some of this stuff laid out where you guys can look at it when we finish. Because, and if you're wanting to look at a knife, you can forget it. But fire steel is one thing. This is a great way, and this will last forever. I mean, you can just, especially this big thing. I don't even know where I got it. But it's a really big, fire steel. This lasts a long time. I keep a knife in there as well. Just because I like to have extra stuff. For the tinder, and I know there's some ready-made tinders here, especially if you're on the go and you need to grab something, but one of the things I always keep with me is Vaseline and cotton balls. That is one of the best, cheapest ways, and it just burns like good, fantastic. I highly recommend that. Of course, now I'm going to tell you, take a bag, pull it inside out, put your hand in it, get the Vaseline through and pull it instead of doing it with your hands, because it'll take you forever to get that stuff off. Don't ask me how I know. All right, so and this is one of Marshall's deals, the Nemeth Lighter. I don't know if I do. There it goes. My wig's down, but this is one of the Nemeth lighters. It's a butane lighter. These are excellent. In fact, it is. What is it?
It's regular lighter fluid.
Well, it's lighter fluid. That's what I said. Isn't it? Okay, hold on. Just kidding. These guys aren't even laughing. I have one that's just like beats a heck, and I was going to show it to you because I love it. I keep it on my keychain typically, but little lighter, and then have some waterproof matches. More cotton. I have a thing for Vaseline cotton balls. I know that's kind of weird, but and then I have just some trioxane tablets here, but just a number of different ways to be able to start fires. So what have you got, Mark?
Pretty much all the same stuff. One thing I find really useful for starting fires is duct tape. One thing, it burns really well. You catch the stuff on fire and it burns pretty hot and pretty well. It's kind of smoky and stinky. But the really nice thing about it is holding tinder. So Southerners, if you're a Southerner, you're probably familiar with fat wood. Fat wood works really well, but if you're in a windy situation, you're scraping off a little bit of fat wood, it's blowing all over the place. So you can get a little piece of duct tape, scrape your shavings onto there, or scrape your other tinder onto there, holds it in place, it burns. It's a really good fire starting tool. I have a Nemeth lighter. I'd be kind of sad if I didn't. Got the waterproof matches, the petroleum jelly cotton balls, a couple different fire steels, and then a Fresnel lens as well, which is just a magnifying lens that you can use to start fires. And it's also really useful. I find myself using this a lot on myself and my daughter for finding splinters and stuff like that. So it's nice to sometimes just in everyday situations just have a little bit of magnification to help you find things. And then some paper as well. So this is just Write in the Rain notebook paper that I have in there. It's good for keeping notes, and also it obviously you can burn the stuff and use that to start a fire.
Yeah.
You talk about water treatment?
Yes. Water. Of course, EDC, you might want to have a water bottle, and of course carrying just a regular plastic bottle is a little bit lighter than this and what I typically carry. But water, you have 3 days without water, and your body starts to just, and if you guys have been watching what's going on in California right now with their water shortages, and our water sources are susceptible to malicious intent, for lack of a better word, and it's really important to have some backups. Water, you can't live without water long, and especially in a high populated area, it's really important. This is one of the Renova filter straws, just a neat little straw, but there's a lot of different ones out there. The main thing is you don't, some of these that are at Walmart, they're not very good. Something you really need to look into what'll take care of Giardia and Cryptosporidium and a lot of different things like that. So it's really important to choose a good filter straw, but this is not large and it's really easy to carry, and water is one of your rule of threes. Please make sure that you have water.
Just to keep yourself hydrated. I mean, yeah, that's a really basic part of the EDC. I didn't bring mine up here, but I always have a water bottle on you because it's kind of like it always gets dark. You're always going to get thirsty, so it's something useful to have, especially having kids. My daughter asks me for water about every 30 seconds, so it's just a useful thing to have. And the one I have for water filtration is just the Frontier emergency filter. It's got a couple pieces that go together, but then you can suck that out of a water source. Super small, super simple, really lightweight, weighs like an ounce or two. But yeah, like he was saying, make sure you get something that actually filters. So there's a lot of stuff on the market that's just made to filter taste, and that doesn't really do a whole lot. You want something that actually filters the bad stuff out of the water. You know, ideally you're getting the bacteria and stuff like that. There's actually a couple filters on the market that'll do viruses as well, chemicals and all that kind of stuff. And again, it's not necessarily a bad situation, but you need some water and you come across a puddle, chances are there's something in there that you don't really want in your body. It's nice to have a way to filter that stuff out.
Well, that's one thing about water too. You drink bad water and it could incapacitate you completely. So
For a long time.
yeah, so that's definitely another reason. Yeah, those are actually really good. I've used those in my creek.
How's the taste?
Tasted good. Did good.
So we'll talk about shelter. So that's another basic thing. You know, this is a big thing that we were talking about last time because, again, it was right after the ice storms. Another good basic thing to have is just some way to protect yourself from the elements. And anybody that got a goodie bag, which thinks everybody here, you guys all got an emergency blanket from AMK. And this is a super simple, lightweight, inexpensive way just to have a little bit of shelter. You know, you can rig this up over you, you can wrap it around you. They really do work. You can wrap it around you, it's going to reflect all your body heat and everything back at you, and they will keep you warm. Put it over you, it'll keep you dry. So it's a really nice, easy, simple way just to keep yourself sheltered from the elements. You know, maybe you're stuck out in the ice storm that we get every 10 years, but they do happen every now and then, and you don't have a way to get home. Maybe you're in a rural area and you don't have a way to get to shelter. Obviously, your best idea is probably to stay with your vehicle, but if you can't do that for any reason, you know, take a little simple shelter with you.
And if you want to see how ridiculous this looks on you, I think I have a video on it, and I think I put it on, so it's really, you know. But these are great, and these can also be used as a medical device to prevent shock. You put it around someone. One thing I want to mention, which I don't have, is which I typically do carry, is a heavy meal trash bag. In fact, there was a leading survival expert, I don't remember, I think I saw this on the Blaze, but he came out and said that if he had one tool only, if he was going out into the wild, he could only have one thing, it would be a heavy meal trash bag. Because you can collect water, you can use it as a shelter, you know, you can use it as a poncho. I mean, there's a bazillion things you can do with it. And really, you can buy a big box of 40 of them at Home Depot or Lowe's, which that's where we usually get them. And they're more expensive than your cheap trash bags. So go ahead and buy the heavy meal because for what you're using it for, it's worth it. But you know, you can put those on and use them. So I think that's something that would be great to have, pretty inexpensive, and you can have multiples. So.
What you got next?
Let's see. One thing that I do have. Oh no, that's pretty cool. I do have that, but I don't bring that up. All right. Paracord. Paracord is pretty good. Is a really good thing to have for a lot of different reasons, even everyday reasons. Because you know sometimes you just happen to be out, and you need to do something, you need to rig something. It's just great to have paracord. This is something that Marshall should be carrying, and I haven't talked to him about it, so I'm springing on. But this is the spool tool. This is a great little paracord thing. It wraps around, has a little cutter, and you even have a thing where you can pull it through and light the end, and it'll close it up. Just a cool little thing to organize it. But regardless of that, having some paracord is a great thing to have. And then of course you can get down into this. So cordage is an important part of, and again, this isn't a survival bag. This can be used just for everyday situations. So just a great thing to have.
Another thing we were talking about using this in just everyday family type situations is make sure you have any essential medications. You know, if you're a person that has any severe allergies for EpiPens or heart conditions or anything like that, make sure that kind of stuff is in your bag because maybe you need a couple extra and you got a little pill vial in your pocket and it runs out. Essential medications and a basic first aid kit are both a really good idea. You have your med kit on you?
I do. One thing that is important is a med kit. This is actually this is a little trauma kit, and you guys know I'm a big shooter, so it's really important to have this. I'll tell you what's really crazy is the other week we were at a shooting range, and a buddy of mine, he's an older guy, and he cut his arm pretty bad. I could not find my med kit. Couldn't find. I mean, it was crazy, and I was looking around, and finally we took some paper towels, and I was thinking, what in the world? And then later on that afternoon, it was under my seat. But you know, having a good med kit and having it where it's available is important. This could save not only your life, it could save a friend of yours' life. So, in fact, my great grandfather was killed in a hunting accident, and you know, by his best friend. It was just an accident. The gun just went off. You know, having something like this may have saved his life. So, you know, you don't know what these are very important.
And if you can, I know Red Cross and a lot of organizations like that offer some pretty good basic training. You know, they'll offer weekend courses where you can learn how to do basic trauma, basic first aid. That stuff's just good knowledge to have in your everyday life. There are a couple philosophies around first aid and trauma stuff. It's either having a nice complete kit or having super basic stuff, and taking care of boo-boos versus taking care of like serious trauma. So you got to decide, you know, what level you want to go to. I mean, we have, you know, massive first aid kits over there that'll handle pretty much everything, and you can go all the way down to, I know a lot of doctors and trauma guys that'll take stuff as simple as duct tape and crazy glue. I mean, that's a pretty simple basic first aid kit. Yeah, you can use this to close wounds and use this to seal off stuff. Probably not something you want on you long term, but for emergency stuff, it has a lot of other purposes as well. But a basic first aid kit, AMK makes some really nice and inexpensive ones that you can just throw in your bag or throw in your backpack that'll take care of basic stuff. And then Quick Clot and stuff like that for the really bad situations that you hope you're never in. Like you said, that kind of stuff can save your life.
Having a good multi-tool is really important, and it's something that you may not want to keep on you. I don't really keep one on me. I keep so much stuff already. So having a good multi-tool is fine. And one thing, though, that I would definitely recommend is a good bandana. In fact, I did a video. It was, I think, 40 uses for the bandana, and there are just so many different things you can do with this. And it's just, I mean, these are pretty cheap, and I know there's some good ones over there that Marshall has. In fact, I've got some of them. And they even have some with maps on them and things like that. But this, there are just so many different uses. So a good bandana is important. You know, a lot of times shamogs, a lot of people wear shamogs. I know I did an anti-terrorist bag, and I had a shamog in there, and I got crucified for it. They said they'd probably shoot me, you know, if I was wearing a shamog. But anyway, there you go.
Some other basic stuff that's good for everyday kind of things is something super simple. You know, a lot of times in situations, maybe even going to the park or going to the zoo, you want to keep yourself clean. There's a lot of germs out there, so a good hand sanitizer is something that's good to carry, especially if you have kids. You know, my kids bring home a new disease about every 2 days from daycare, so you know, it's nice to have something to be able to just disinfect yourself. And there's ones you can get. You can get the alcohol-based ones. I like the alcohol-free ones because they don't dry your skin out. But and a lot of them could be used as fire starters as well. Not this one, this is non-flammable, but the alcohol-based ones obviously you can use as a fire starter. So a lot of this stuff, it's nice to have multiple uses for it. And another thing kind of along the same lines is bug spray and sunscreen. So another couple basic things that a lot of us use a lot of the time. You know, why not get some of these small ones and throw them in your bag just if you're in a situation, you know, maybe you weren't expecting to be outside and you want to keep yourself from too much sun exposure or insect exposure. Some good things to have on you.
Another thing is, which this would definitely fall into an EDC role, is a thumb drive, and for me, memory cards.
We need to oil that door.
We do. Chapstick, of course, obviously that's a great thing. This is also a good fire starter. And a pair of fingernail clippers. I think these are actually toenail clippers, but I don't know about you guys, but I never can have enough of these because whenever I need it, I can't ever find them. And
Is that a smiley face on that one?
it is. Isn't that nice?
It's nice. It's nice.
That's good. Okay.
And another kind of hygiene thing, you know, I was talking about splinters earlier. If you're going down to the coast of Georgia, in a lot of areas, there are ticks just everywhere. If any of you have ever been to Cumberland Island, ticks are a major problem there in the summer, and it's a beautiful, just gorgeous place, but every time I go there when it's the warm weather, you pull in like 5 or 6 ticks out of you a day, let alone all the ones you're just flicking off. So a good pair of tweezers, or even a good multi-tool is good for that kind of stuff. And then, you know, splinters and those kind of things. I really like the Uncle Bill silver grippers is what these are. They work really well, and they have a little thing to hold them in place and put on your keychain. But yeah, a good pair of tweezers is good to have as well.
Yeah, even for splinters and things like that, for sure. There's a couple of things in here that I don't necessarily carry for EDC. I do have a little survival kit. In fact, these little gear pods, I don't know if you ever messed with these things, they're great. I know Marshall has, in fact, he introduced me to them, but these are just great, and you can actually take this one off and put a different, with two threads, and then put extra pieces on here. But these are great, they're waterproof, and just keeps everything together. And I got an SOS food bar in there. I'm not going to bring that out because that's not really EDC. And a good Sharpie. Sharpies are great. And then, of course, your pen. And then, let's see. One thing, too, is now I have a flashlight in my pocket, but one of the flashlights I use more next to what I use for my EDC is a good headlamp. A headlamp is just fantastic. If your car breaks down in the middle of the night, you're trying to change a tire, or whatever, you're out doing something, you have a good source to be able to put this on hands-free, and then you can actually pull this one off. But with that, you definitely need some extra batteries, and that's one thing that to always have. If you're like me, I'm always running out of batteries. And if you do YouTube videos and you have a camera, you need to keep extra memory cards around. Don't you?
He had to borrow one from me just for clarification. I don't want to blame that on me.
Yeah, I won't blame that on you.
That's all I have in my bag. What else do you have?
Well, I mean, I think that if we're not, because some of this stuff I think kind of falls a little bit outside of what I would personally carry every day, and even for you. So I think we've kind of covered the basics. Now, I guess what I'd like to know is if somebody has something we haven't covered that you carry that you feel like that might be important for us to use. I think you're telling what's going to come out of this bag, guys. I'm telling you.
On that note, one of the best things to do is if you get in a situation and you don't have something, start carrying it. Maybe you find that medication. There you go. Don's 19 extra mags that he's got in there, 5 pistols and 7 knives, and
no, I'm from South Carolina. We're not able to conceal carry here, so this is just extra right now.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Maybe you should have said that on video.
Oh.
But yeah, if you get in a situation you find yourself, maybe you didn't have that thing, start carrying it, because chances are you're going to be in that situation again.
And the one thing is too, guys, this little EDC stuff, you don't have to get the most expensive stuff. Just get something to get you started. Then you can upgrade. But really taking care of your basic necessities is not really that expensive. And it's something you do. And if like this pack, I put this pack together. I pull a few things here and there out of it, but honestly, it's not it's not stuff that I use all the time because I want to keep it together. Now, does anybody have some things maybe that you do? And
with a larger pack like that, a good idea is to make a packing list. If you have somebody with you that doesn't know what's in your pack, say this is the list, this is what's in here, they can pop it open, look at that, see maybe what pocket, have a little roadmap as to what's there and how to get to it.
That's a great idea after we've watching me go through this thing.
So if the camera didn't pick that up, what he was saying is make sure you have a packing list for maybe somebody that's not familiar with your bag. And Sarah's bringing up a survival medic. This is something that we talked about last year. And if you want something super basic for yourself, if you want something for your friends and family, this little kit is $15. It has an emergency blanket, whistle, duct tape, fire starter, basic first aid stuff, a compass, all kinds of good stuff in here. And if you don't want to go through building all this stuff, just get one of these. You got some family members that don't want to do any of this stuff, get one of these, have them throw it in their backpack, have them throw it in their briefcase, their glove box, just so they have just the very basic stuff to be able to take care of a lot of situations. And it's a nice little resealable bag. You can open it up and get in there and then reseal it. But AMK is really good talking about the list, and that is a very good suggestion. They're really good about having the contents on there, how to use them, instructions, and all that kind of stuff. So that's a great point. Have basic packing lists in there and put it in an obvious area just so people who aren't familiar with your stuff can find what's in there.
Anybody else have something they want to add?
Always keep a knife sharpener, baby wipes in a little Ziploc bag.
Baby
and a
wipes are
small,
good, yeah.
Small little radio with weather band.
There you go.
Right.
Sharpener, baby wipes, and a weather radio, and those are all really good suggestions. I actually normally keep baby wipes with me, but I have babies, so I've gone through them all. You know, that's another thing we touched on last year. And a thing to reiterate is we're obviously both really bad about cannibalizing our bags. Make sure if you take something out of it, you put it back in. If you take something important out of there, then you don't have it when you really need it. It's not in there. So if you use your fire starter, your first aid kit, or something like that, make sure you replace it as soon as you can. I'm really bad in like go bags and in my truck about water, which is one of the most important basic things that we can have. I'm really bad about having the water and using it and then not replacing it. So the important stuff, make sure if you use it, you put it back in your bag or you get a replacement for it if it's something that's disposable or usable. Some people like to carry gloves, so some basic like nitrile gloves, dust mask, eye protection, stuff like that. You know, not a whole lot of situations where you're going to need it, but when you do need it, you know, in any kind of situations where there's a lot of debris in the air or anything like that, it's nice to have just some protection from stuff that's floating around or stuff that you have to touch.
Well, you know, there's a good point. You guys, especially those that live in Metro Atlanta, where there's a lot going on, I think we were talking about a report that was released recently about terrorist activity. There were 100 incidences of terrorist activity here in the Atlanta area last year. 100 terrorist related. So, you know, while a lot of the times that doesn't affect our lives. In fact, I have a good friend of mine that he's a rabbi, and he went back to Jerusalem for a trip, and he goes every year, and there were like, this has been a few years ago, but he said, you know, when you're there, he goes, across town, a bomb could be going off. You wouldn't even know it. And everything's just life is normal, you know, just things are going on. So just because it seems normal and we get lulled into that, really you need to just be prepared with some simple things. You don't have to go over the top, but be prepared because these things don't happen. I know, you know, had a house broken into, and then, you know, a year later we have a truck stolen, and people are like, man, you're the most unlucky person, and, you know, you really need to move out of that area, and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I said, you know, at my age, that's the first time I've ever had my truck stolen, you know, and the first time we ever had our house broken into. But here's the thing, and I said this on video, so forgive me for those who've already seen it, but you have 110% chance that your house is going to be broken into sometime in your lifetime. That's FBI statistics. I'm not just pulling that out of the air. You have a 20% chance your vehicle will be stolen. Now that's in your lifetime. So that may be tomorrow. And then again, it may be 20 years from now. So, you know, keep those things in mind, that just because things aren't happening now doesn't mean that things can't happen.
I had my house broken into about 8 times when I was in college.
Good grief. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why the statistics are so low.
Marshall's the most unluckiest guy in the world.
Definitely above average. Every single person I knew had their bike stolen. Literally every guy I knew that went to tech had a bike stolen at some point. Yeah, I mean, stuff, people like to take stuff, and, you know, maybe you have your vehicle, somebody takes your vehicle, you don't have a way to get home. It's good to have just some basic stuff to take care of those kind of situations.
Right.
You know, chances are it's not going to happen again tomorrow, but eventually it might.
Okay. So EDC, it's everyday carry, it's things you use every day, you know, just to give you some ideas. And again, you know, we have different ideas. You guys are going to have a lot of other ideas.
Do what works best for you. Any other questions about anything? Yes, ma'am.
Aside from the weapons and of course the lighter, is that flight safe? Like, can you go through an airport with some of those things?
Absolutely
or?
not.
Okay.
You could probably throw a lot of this stuff in your carry-on. She was asking if it's flight safe. Obviously the knives would have to be checked. They usually don't want any kind of fire starter that's not solid, if that makes sense. So any kind of lighters, any kind of butane, they don't want that in your check baggage or in your carry-on. So fire starters and knives, which are two very important things. Obviously you can't take on the plane. Some of the stuff you can check, but it really depends on the stuff. There's probably about a quarter of the stuff that I'd have to take out for a flight.
The good thing is, the things you'd have to do, you couldn't take when you get to your destination, you can typically pick up.
Right, a lot of it's going to be like your liquids. Obviously you can't carry a lot of liquids as carry-ons, and there's some chemicals they don't want you to have on a plane in any place. But a lot of like crazy glue, and you know, I don't know if that's prohibited or not, but you know, most of the stuff that you can get pretty much anywhere. A lot of the stuff basic variations of it. You can walk into any Walmart or Target and get basic survival stuff. You can go to a CVS and get your hand sanitizer and those kind of things, your first aid. So a lot of this stuff is easily replaceable. Is it going to be as nice as the stuff you probably have in your kit? Probably not, but it'll function.
Yeah, that's a good point, though.
Thank you.
Any other questions about anything? I think we're good to go. Thanks, Don. Thanks,
Hey,
guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. My multi-tool, you know, having a good multi-tool, I mean, there's a bazillion. This is something a lot of people carry on their person. You wouldn't turn those lights on, we get some light. If you're warned about the FBI, look the other way.
Don't say cheese. I'm trying to make you say cheese.
Provolone, go ahead.
Okay.
And then one over here too.